excited. And we're being recorded. And the opportunities that will pose for us in turn. So there's that. And then the other thing is that Denise had the opportunity to visit with staff on their 2022 performance goals. And she had some really good conversations with them surrounding the work that we have done so far this year. And also just an opportunity to assess our vision, plans, and goals from their perspectives. You know, we've been in the middle of this conversation here for the better part of this year, but also to have the opportunity to hear from them at their perspective in the day-to-day work with coalitions was very helpful. So that is all I have for exec update. Planning and measurement. I will turn it over to you, Diane.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. I don't think I need my full 2 minutes for this, but what planning and measurement did in our June meeting is review the discussion from the board meeting that had occurred in June with the school officials and processed that and distilled out of it a set of priorities for ongoing conversations with school officials going forward and a draft set of questions to add to the youth behavioral risk factor surveys that will be administered in the fall. And we'll probably do the same thing again this month. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Next is nominating committee. We're tabling the Kearney Chamber seat, but we do have an action needed for approving the resignation of Sarah Yendra. Any questions or comments on that? Otherwise, if we can just get a motion to approve that.
This is Mike. I'll make the motion. We accept her resignation.
Thanks, Mike. A second. Do we need a second since it's from
a committee? You don't need
it's from a committee. Okay. So if you can just drop your vote then for that in the chat box. Thanks. Next committee is resource, and we do have the budget. So if Nikki wants to take it from here so we can go over the budget, that would be awesome.
Hello, everyone. I was not totally prepared to go over the budget by myself, so hopefully Denise will pop in here. But we did have a meeting electronically in June to review the financials for May, and those were approved, and so those will be forwarded to the board. Budget was reviewed by the committee, and what I recall from that conversation is that it is very similar to this past year's budget. So there are not a ton of changes. We do have more coming in still, like last year, and yet there are still some grants and donations that we're anticipating but are not confirmed yet. Denise, do you have more to add?
You did a beautiful job, Nikki. I think Resource Committee, when we presented a budget last year, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and we said a budget is a good guide for us throughout the year. And now we're post-pandemic, and we have created our best guide for financial decisions for the board this year. It is conservative, and like we have done in the past. We're hopeful that our donations will rebound. So as you are all seeing, we'll have an update on that as well later on here. But that is one factor probably to keep an eye on, is the money coming in this next fiscal year and what that might look like. And then of course our expenses are fairly conservative as well. And we'll be watching that and monitoring that through Resource Committee on an ongoing basis. And they usually by December take a good look at resources and see what our accounts receivables and income looks like by December. And if we need to adjust the budget at any reason due to shortfalls, we can do that at that time as well and present a vision of the budget back to the board in January. So that those kind of pieces are in there to help protect the organization as well. But yeah, it's almost identical with a 3% increase in all staff salaries. That is probably one thing we should mention, which is very typical annually that comes through. So I don't know, did I miss anything else, Nikki?
I don't think so. I'm sure that we would entertain any questions that anyone might have. And if not, the resource committee would recommend approval of the 21-22 annual budget.
Make a motion to approve the budget as presented. Jason?
I second Kathy.
Thank you. Just drop your vote in the chat box there. And then I apologize. I have a sticky note on my agenda, so I skipped over the 2030 steering. So I am going to turn it back over to Denise to give us an update on that.
I don't have a lot to share with 20 and 2030 steering committee. We have a very passionate leader for 2030 steering committee, and that is Travis Gregg from Kearney Regional. He really gets strategic planning and loves the collective impact model and has really been passionate about leading this work. We're working with members of that team that have been meeting. They were meeting almost 2 years before the pandemic hit. And so they're kind of stepping back and asking, how much longer do you need us to continue to work in this vision space? So I think we're at that point where coming up in August and September, we'll probably present what they have completed to date to the board for approval, and then regroup and just kind of figure out what that next part of what a 2030 steering committee could be doing for the overall board. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're waiting for approval from the committee on a shared community agenda and what that might look like if we did something like that before the end of the year. So that's at least one piece that will be coming to the board for your review. So that's kind of where they're at. They're in a kind of a transition period of completing a lot of their work and then trying to decide what that next elements and next steps would be for the group, and seeking some board input and staff recommendations for that work.
Okay. I don't know if it's just on my end or if anybody else is experiencing some feedback. Okay, we'll see if that resolves itself here. Okay, the last one then is marketing and development. And regarding our 2021 annual fund, we are at total of 45,338, and that does include a pledge from CHI for 35,000. So that is the large chunk of that. So that puts us at a little over 10,000 for a total. We did have letters go out to all donors from the last 3 years. And so they're seeing some donations come in response to those letters. We are currently at 60% for the board. So if you do have any intentions to donate to a specific campaign, or if Give Where You Live is where you like to focus your energies, if you'll just shoot an email to Denise just to let her know that those are your intentions. Our goal is to achieve 100% of board contributions. So hopefully we can get that taken care of here in the next month. But that is where we are with the annual campaign. So that is everything for committee updates. I think that we may have some people waiting to be let in. Is that correct, Denise, before we dive into the next section?
They should all have just joined us, Nadia.
I'm sorry.
They should all have just joined us.
Okay, okay, so we are ready to go then. So welcome to all of you who have joined us. We are very excited to hear from you all today, and we appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. So we're going to start out with just a quick review of what we heard last month. And
Nadia, excuse me, this is Kathy, but I still have sharing screen on. Is there a way to?
yep, I think Matt's going to share screen.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry. Okay.
There is everybody. So he's going to share his screen again, though. We're just going to go over a real quick review of last month. We heard from school administrators regarding the issue of healthy youth and thriving families, that theme. And so just briefly, what we heard from them last month, we heard a shared focus and potential for shared agenda around the issues of social media, vaping and marijuana, gaps in early childhood education and training, abuse and neglect, inclusion and diversity, mental health and behavioral health needs of students, families, and faculty, and support to train teachers. The other thing that we heard from them was an appreciation of community partners' past work in social emotional development, the social workers at Kearney Public, and the MTSS Pyramid Programming in Early Childhood. The schools, we definitely heard that they manage way too many surveys and are overwhelmed by those. So we've talked about the possibility of approaching that a little differently. We don't have to continue to do some things just because that's always how it's been done. How can we make those surveys more meaningful to the schools? We heard that school administrators do talk frequently and share ideas and resources between themselves. There is an opportunity for us to equalize resources across the district. And then we celebrated that schools stayed in session this past year. The counselors were great resources. MTSS demonstrated that the prevention work and the pandemic has provided a way to reach more people than ever before. So today we're going to continue on listening to partners who specialize in these areas. And our goals for today that we heard last month that our area schools are key leaders in doing amazing work in connecting students and families to important supports. And today we're eager to hear from those supports and celebrate the good work that they are doing in the area of healthy youth and thriving families. Keep in mind the collective impact models that we talked about early on in this process, which teach us that when multiple partners work together toward the same goal and measure the same things, transformative outcomes are possible. So we'll be listening today for common agenda, shared data, mutually reinforcing activities, end user voice driving those solutions, and then any gaps and barriers. So I'm going to turn it over to Denise at this point. But again, I do appreciate everybody taking time to share with us today.
Thank you, Nadia. I am behind the scenes trying to track who all is even on this call. So if you're seeing me going crazy over here, it's just trying to figure out who's on the call and who's up. And I think Sheriff Miller was the first one we had to present. I don't see him yet, but I did see, I think, Matt Gorman, are you on this call from Amherst? Do you want to just do a shout out? We'd love to welcome you as a school superintendent for the Amherst area.
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name's Matt Gordon. I'm the new superintendent at Amherst, and I was actually in Kearney taught at Horizon Middle School for 8 years before moving out and becoming principal and then coming back to be superintendent. So I am pretty familiar with the work that you guys have done and appreciate being a part of this group.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's great to have you join us today. I think I also see Nathan Lytle, and do you want to do a shout out to Nathan? I think you started a new job in Buffalo County.
That is correct. I'm the new superintendent at Pleasanton. Much like Matt, I also have some roots in Kearney as I was the elementary principal at Windy Hills Elementary School last year. So I'm excited to take over the position up here in Pleasanton and look forward to learning from this group. That's what I'm here for today. Don't have a lot to share, but I'm interested in listening to all the great things that are going on in our community.
Did I miss any other school superintendents who have jumped on the call? Okay, not having the agenda right directly in front of me, I'm going to stick with the law enforcement. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt has got this for me. Jessica Vickers with Live Well. She's been an amazing volunteer with our organization for many years and does some amazing work. So Jessica, would you like to start off with your 5 minutes and answering some of those questions that we presented to you via the email? So Jessica, it's all yours.
I was just looking for the questions. I'm very sorry. I wasn't expected to have to go right off the bat.
We can come back to you, Jessica. You look for the questions. Doug Kramer, do you have the questions in front of you if we skip over Jessica?
Yeah, I do. What is your vision for youth and families in your community? Outcomes, targets, and impact? And that, I'm assuming that's the questions that you're talking about, correct?
That is. Do you want to go ahead and start while Jessica gets her questions together?
Sure,
So
I'm good at stalling. I can do that. Actually, the information I put on here is just, it's very similar to what you were talking about as common agenda items. And I work at the Buffalo County Attorney's Office, administrator for all the juvenile services programs, which is truancy and diversion. And we also have a juvenile justice coordinator who's working with uncontrollable youth, such as runaways, really to keep them from entering the juvenile justice system. And the first thing I put on here was work with mental health providers, school counselors, school administrators, social workers, probation officers, truancy and diversion staff to identify and provide resources to youth with mental health needs. That's what we're seeing a lot, especially with the last year to 18 months, including mental health and depression screening and screeners. So, and that's my first item that I talked about, is that mental health needs have increased so much. And then what are youth's unmet needs from a broad community perspective? And what would you say to others in the community to help them understand the needs of the youth and families? I think all of the youth and families, I'd say a large percentage want help. It's just not really knowing and, stepping up and saying, I want the help and I want to continue with it. We have some that definitely don't want help, but I think eventually have some needs that they feel they want to work towards. So I think access to that affordable mental health and also decreasing the stigma to step forward and participate in counseling or other mental health assessments or services. And then alternatives to detention is something that we look at. We'd prefer to have youth stay in the community and work on their and family needs, their individual and family needs. And so anything that provides any type of supervision, mental health, and also drug and alcohol usage behaviors. We're seeing that as kind of a reaction to COVID and the pandemic, is that, what feels good, it may be something that's a temporary quick fix, i.e. alcohol, other drugs. We need to look at ways to decrease chronic absenteeism. I think that's something that all the school people will continue to talk about. Just with Zoom stuff and all the things that we've had, remote stuff, I think it kind of got that involvement with youth to say, I can stay at home and do stuff, but not step up and continue to get involved with their low achievement, and chronic criminal involvement seemed to be on the increase this last year in any activities. So I did not get a lot of information on data collection. I know we do that. And that's one of the things that we need to really step up and just continue with all the stuff that we do with diversion and truancy. So I think that's probably close to 5 minutes. I'm done.
Way to go, Doug. That's impressive. I do think you do some screenings though with every one of the youth that goes through diversion. So you've got some pretty good data. And then you also have the ability to kind of reach back with those youth and kind of ask what was effective in the community. Is that a correct statement?
Right. We still use the Massachusetts Youth Screening Instrument, the MAISY. Say that 3 times real fast. That will continue to use that, but I know the Nebraska Crime Commission is coming out with a new diversion screening instrument that will probably come out in August. That's something that was developed along with the UNO Juvenile Justice Institute. And that's something that we're more than willing to share with anybody as we get that and start to use that. But it is a real, I think, juvenile justice screening instrument, and probation uses their own screening tool. But I think it's something that's kind of being developed that will continue to work with youth in different stages of their progression, hopefully that they don't progress throughout the system, law enforcement system.
Thank you so much, Doug. I thought that was probably an important data piece to share for the group. The other thing probably to make note of is that Doug and Sean Etherton, the county attorney, have access to funds from the Nebraska Crime Commission. And with those funds, they're dedicated toward what is developed as the Buffalo County Juvenile Justice Plan. And so Doug leads that work, and a lot of those goals are set with our staff facilitating meetings, and then those parameters are put in place to help with the funding from the Crime Commission. So that's another big piece. There's some data collection in those efforts too, but just kind of a connection to that work too for Doug. And Jessica, are you ready for your part, your 5 minutes? So it's your turn, my friend.
Awesome, thank you. So, I mean, I could echo a lot of what Doug has already shared, but the first, what is our vision for youth and families in our community? Just that everyone has that access to mental and behavioral health, not just counseling. I think there's lots of various services that are in the behavioral and mental health realm that youth and families could greatly beneficial from. Counseling is great, but that might not be for everybody. So it's just making sure that everybody has access to the supportive services that they need to support their mental health. Unmet needs. What are youth unmet needs from a broad community perspective? Well, I could go on a whole bunch of needs that kind of have come up. Did I freeze?
You did, but your sound is perfect, my friend.
Okay. I was like, everyone froze on my screen. So I guess as long as you can hear me. The unmet needs, a couple different things. I think we don't have enough bilingual therapists, bilingual services in the mental health area. That continues to be a growing need that we see. I think we also, a growing need for peer support services. And then we used to have group homes and things like that in our area that we don't have anymore. And so sometimes when kids have a higher need, we're not quite sure what to do, especially at the younger ages. If a kid is younger than 12 and has a very, very high need for services, we have a very hard time finding those services that are appropriate for them, not only in our area, but just even in Nebraska. So that's like a state thing. How does data collected from youth and families impact our work? We work to collect data from various groups. Buffalo County Partners collects data, Doug collects data. And so we try to take that input that we receive from those data points to really take a look at what we're doing and how we can enhance what we're already doing. Especially with our work with our schools, we have a school program that we provide on-site services, and we're always looking at how can we better work with area schools, how can we make services accessible. We've worked with the juvenile justice in providing RAP to two of the middle schools in Buffalo County. Just really trying to take a look at where those gaps are and how we can fill those. Okay, I think I've gone probably over 5 minutes, but guess let me know if you got questions.
You did a fantastic job, Jessica. Probably about 3 pieces that I would like you to define, if you would, in the chat, because I think they're new terms that maybe not everybody on the board has heard. One is RAP, maybe defining that a little bit, and then peer support. I think those are maybe 2 things I caught as you were talking that may need just a little bit of explanation, and then maybe just an introduction of kind of what your background is in your business for the team as well. So if you don't mind dropping that in the chat, that would be appreciated. And then let's go with Nathan Dennis. Just got to meet Nathan just recently. I believe he is the new school resource officer, replacing Rob Talon, if I'm correct, at Kearney High School. And so we're really excited to have Nathan starting this work and also on this call to help us kind of understand a little bit more from his perspective from the City of Kearney Police Department. So Nathan, you are up next.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, so just really, like Denise said, just started SRO at the end of the last school year, but I've been an officer for a while. So I'll just, what is your vision for youth and families in the community? And like, this is going to be echoing everybody. Basically for the youth to become productive, law-abiding citizens of the community, to understand that they have an important role, and the actions that they have now, the voices that they do have now and later, will play an important part in their futures. As far as family values, should coincide with the betterment of the community. Family values have and always will make the community better. They decide what the community, I guess, vision is. Each family should know that their actions have a direct effect on and what goes on in the community. Second question, what are youth unmet needs from a broad community perspective? I guess in my line of work, and I see it pretty much every day, our community needs more facilities for treatment. We have good facilities. We have excellent counselors, school counselors, private counselors. We have Richard Young, the hospital. It just doesn't seem like we have enough in our mostly in Kearney by itself. We do have, the Tri-City areas has multiple areas, but as far as Kearney itself, it just doesn't seem like there's enough. And unfortunately, like the last 2 speakers have said, this trend is going up. Mental health issues have been going up rapidly for juveniles. What would you say to others in the community to help them understand the needs of the youth and families? I would say that, my biggest thing right now is I see, our youth are so much, I won't say smarter, but so much more well-informed than my generation. I know I'm an older generation, so much more well-informed of what's going on in the world. Some of that information is good for them. Some of them, obviously not so good. I would say that to what I would say to families in the communities, it just needs to be regulated a little bit more. And I think that has to be on a family basis. Parents or guardians are the ones who are going to have to really step up and regulate this, of what they're seeing and what they're doing as far as that's concerned. How does data collected from youth and families from prevention work in your organization? We have recently, as far as the Kearney Police Department, have in the last 2 or 3 years, have really started collecting more data on the trends and the criminal issues of what's going on in Kearney. And that goes on a day-to-day basis, identifying the trends that are going on, specifically to where youth tend to be pointing their activities. We have multiple avenues as far as reporting goes. We have apps that anybody can download, in particular like the See Something, Send Something app. The city of Kearney has their on their website, the P2C, which is Police to Citizen, which citizens can come and look at what's going on as far as the police activity goes, and vice versa. If there's a reporting system on that also. So I think that was the 3 questions that pretty much had to go. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us today and sharing that information. A couple shout outs that I wanted to make in relationship to some of the information that you shared is that law enforcement has been an amazing partner in better understanding that impact of social media with youth. And so there will be a parent panel coming up very soon, I think in the next week or so, and you'll be getting an invite from our online email system letting you know when that will be. And I believe Officer Warrington will be sharing his perspective, as well as Jessica Vickers and a few others of the experts in that area, to talk a little bit more about the impact of social media, and a little bit about what Nathan was talking about, is how to regulate that as a parent, or how to be an informed parent and support that work. So that will be coming out August 17th. Wanda Fedorchak just dropped that in. So that information will be coming out to all of you to know about. The other piece I wanted to say too for Nathan, the data collection has been amazing in the work that we've done with the co-responder model, and looking at some potential of a behavioral health counselor, crisis counselor, to be aligned with law enforcement. And so in those conversations, we've been able to see an amazing detail of hotspots of when activity is most prevalent, based on the demographics of what we're looking at for individuals in crisis in Buffalo County. So that has really helped to inform the group. And if I can remember right, it seems like it was Sunday, Monday, and maybe Wednesday were like the hot spots. But it was really interesting to see the data in that perspective. So Nathan is right on with the ability today versus what it has been in the past for that data collection and looking at those trends. His team has been phenomenal in bringing that information to the community to look at. The next up, I was going to go to Nikki Gosman if she is ready for her turn.
Thanks, Denise. If you know me, I tend to do this, and I'm going to do today maybe a little bit of a different spin on this information than our previous speakers have. So I wanted to share that a lot of what the Safe Center does that people commonly recognize as intervention efforts. And I really want to talk about our prevention efforts, because throughout this process, the prevention pieces are really important to me, that we don't forget all the things that we need to do before we get to the place where we need so many intervention services for these issues. In relationship to prevention, the Safe Center really wants to engage and recognize young adults as leaders in prevention. We think that they have a lot of information and they're getting more information, like Nathan said. So we want to utilize that and foster some positive interactions with them in order to encourage them to lead prevention activities. We're also committed to working with groups and coalitions in the community to empower individuals and communities to incorporate violence prevention into their efforts and to take ownership of those efforts as well. Like I said, we are most commonly recognized for our intervention efforts, but we really want to help promote healthy relationships, eliminate violence in our community, especially relationship violence. Help engage youth to build those protective factors and resilience, and really change attitudes, behaviors, and knowledge. Sexual and domestic violence are connected to other types of violence, child abuse, bullying, suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety, lots of mental health issues, and more. And so while working with the community, we really want to coordinate efforts with others to help change those norms that make violence acceptable and that lead to all of these issues. So the Safe Center right now is involved with schools, and we are available to be more involved to help build that culture of healthy relationships and to help teach about bystander intervention. We are available to help with school policy practices, to help respond to victims, but also keeping offenders accountable and creating a culture that's focused on healthy relationships. During the school year, we have been sending monthly emails to counselors for them to utilize for youth, and also to help with those social media graphics to help spread the information in their newsletters, social media, however they can, to help create that environment. We also promote Verify, which is an information resource that stands for Voices Encouraging Relationship Integrity for Young Adults. And we really want to continue to push out information that others in the community can use to help learn more about healthy relationships and to promote prevention. So for unmet needs, the Safe Center did conduct several focus groups with YAB, with students from Kearney High and UNK students last year. And we found that young adults really do want to talk about healthy relationships. They need their families to be good role models. That's where they're seeing a lot of that. And I know that sometimes it's tough to reach out to families and get that information when they need it. Students are hearing what you shouldn't do, but we also heard from them that they want to hear more about those subtle things in relationships and the gray areas. They understand what abuse is, what it isn't, but they sometimes don't understand what to do when that happens and how to get out of those situations. We also had a lot of students sharing that they wanted to see better relationships between themselves and faculty at schools. They felt like not all students had someone that they were connected with. And so sometimes those were the students that didn't know where to turn and didn't have the help that they might need. And we also heard from students that they just don't know how to navigate relationships sometimes. They don't know how to help their friends. And then there was another set that feels like they really have to experience these things in order to know what it's like and help other friends, which is a bit scary. So as far as data, we are really working towards developing more opportunities for youth and for engaging youth so that that can guide our work. Currently, we're getting feedback from presentations, from focus groups, engaged youth in high schools and college, and our social media engagement, and also feedback from school personnel about what they want to see. And connecting the coalitions in the community and listening to others that work with young adults really helps shape our direction as well. So that feedback, as well as feedback from our clients who are young adults, from parents and from adult clients, really helps us see when they can identify the knowledge and behaviors that might have assisted in preventing violence in their relationships, so that we can help shape what we need to do in the future. So we're always available to assist in the community and want to really grow those relationships and be more engaged to assist youth with prevention and in the community.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Sorry if your mute was going on and off. I hit the wrong button, so you're probably wondering what was happening there. Thank you so much. That was great information. Most excellent. Let me see. I think we have Haley Jelinek, who is on this call as well from Two Rivers Public Health Department. Haley, in her previous life, was one of our major helpers through the pandemic in her work at South Central Area Agency on Aging and working with a lot of our community response pieces. So we're really excited to see her with her public health hat on. And I can tell you she worked really, really hard to get vaccines out there. I know I talked with her several times about people in need, and she just did fantastic work. And today she's going to talk to you about prevention. And I think that's a piece that the health department doesn't always get to talk much about, but Haley has been doing some great work in the area of prevention. So Haley, it is your turn.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm not sure if I'm always that wonderful, but we are getting started here. You know, we're kind of on the tail end of COVID, the pandemic. Whether we're on the tail end or not of that is yet to be seen probably. So for right now, I am going to be working as a health educator for mental health, substance abuse, and violence prevention. Because I've kind of been out of the youth game for quite a while, I worked with elders and mainly people with disabilities. And we did not have a health educator that dealt with the mental health and that kind of stuff. I'm just going to give you what my info from my previous jobs and kind of go from there. What is my vision for youth and families in your community? I think my vision is that, and it's probably a rose-colored glass vision. I really want that families and kids have a place to go to talk about their concerns. And that doesn't mean always counseling. That sometimes means just somebody, how do I want to say it? I really would like to see maybe in schools, you know, my kids were involved in Skills for Success where they went out to dinner and got taught all the good manners and that kind of stuff. I'm wondering if there's some sort of thing that we can pull together for kids to learn about relationships. What happens in a normal, if you can say normal, which most of us aren't, but in families, what happens when you go on a date? What happens when your partner is pressuring you for sex? What happens when your partner is being verbally or physically abusive to you? I think a lot of my vision is really wrapped up in what Nikki had just talked about. I think what they're doing for prevention rocks. I'm so excited for all that stuff just to keep going and for us to make things so kids understand better about what normal is, if you want to call it that way. What do I think the community needs? From when I had kids, I think all communities need a place for kids to go and hang out that is not on the street corners, that is not, that there, at least there is a little bit of supervision. I'm wondering if we can't utilize maybe the Y for maybe dances or just get-togethers. One thing that I love is I can't remember the name of it. It's through Families Care. It's the Teenage Cafe or whatever that's called, that they can just get together and talk and enjoy each other. Wellness Cafe. Thank you, Michelle. And I think that would be a wonderful thing that we could do for our youth, whether that be an after-school program at the Y or somewhere at the schools. And I think we need, in Buffalo County, there's a lot more schools than just here in Kearney. So I think we're going to have to work together to maybe do that in all of the communities in our area. The other thing is, you know, you don't get a playbook when you're a parent. And I know that some people do not want to go to classes when they're called parenting classes, but you know, I'm wondering if we can have some education surrounding appropriate parenting. We could hook parents up with younger parents so they have somebody to discuss issues that are coming up. And I don't know where that all fits in, but I think it would be wonderful for all of us. I know when my kids were little, I have a child that has some mental health issues, luckily, I had done child protective services and worked with therapists and all kinds of stuff before, and I still didn't do it all right at all. I wish that I would have had somebody that I could have just called and chatted about that kind of stuff, whether that's like a hotline. And I did do like, what was it? I can't remember which hotline it was, but there was a parenting program that I did contact. But maybe if it was somebody here in our community that they knew they could reach out to, that might help. Data collection. I do not know where that is in our, if I need any data, I usually send a note to Tana. Thanks, Tana. I don't have a process for data collection at this point. So I think that's mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Haley. And I know you probably have focused on those questions, but I do want to shout out that you do have some funds that you were able to do some assessments around prescription drug misuse. So that's another area that Haley is getting involved in and has had a conversation with Positive Pressure about some of those pieces. So thank you for your work in that area. I don't think we have any other community individuals who are available at this time to talk. And I just want to ask if maybe Nathan or Matt, Nathan Lytle or Matt, since you didn't get a chance to present last month, would you like to address those 3 questions from your perspective in the school? I'm putting you on the spot and I'm sorry about that.
I would love to address them, but I do not know the answers to those questions yet. I'm still learning our community and our school. And since I've started, there's been about 3 people in the office. So I'm still learning all of that information. So I'd be glad to present at a later date.
Fair enough, Nathan. And is Matt still with us? Yes, Matt, what do you think? I think you're probably in the same kind of space too, but we sure give you some time to present.
Yeah, I am, but I've been lucky enough. My counselor kind of has been in, and I had her answer those questions, and Carol sent them to me. I'm just trying to find where they are. You know, it's only get a couple hundred emails a day, so you just try to sort through things as you get them.
You are correct. I'm remembering now. You sent me an email with the answers to all your questions. So
yeah, well, I'd love to say that I did them, but I did pawn them off, like I said, on my counselor. She was kind enough to answer them. So that's the like what activities or procedures does their district, correct?
Yes.
Okay, basically, we kind of do elementary Red Ribbon Week, junior high, we have our health class. We kind of go into some things there. We do have our speakers that come in and talk annually to our 7th graders about risky sexual behaviors and kind of do the developmental talk with them. And then different things with vaping. And I mean, it's very much echoing what the other schools stated as to the vaping and the attendance and the suicide prevention and all those type of things that we're seeing the same thing. I don't think it's the only difference is different locations as far as problems. It's pretty similar. As far as student needs that aren't addressed, biggest need is probably, once again, access to mental health counselors and just those things, those different things. That's kind of why I'm glad to be a part of this group and getting to hear all of you speak, is because I know that partnerships in those areas are very, very important. Having those conversations as we see things come up with our kiddos up here, that we can either work with you if you're already working with them, or get our kids connected with the different resources that are available and making sure those things are up. I did get an email from ESU 10 yesterday that I guess there's some Medicare money out there that they're looking at getting some mental health practitioners and probably getting a day, allowing us to have them a day a week And so we're kind of looking into that, and maybe some ESSER funds can cover that. So that's some good things coming down the pipe with that. Just because transportation is an issue, especially when they're up here. Being outside of Kearney, all of our services are in the Kearney area. And so they got to get from here to school or school to town, and it just takes a lot of time. And then data do we have on risky behavior? We really don't have a lot of formal data here is what I'm hearing. So we just we need to do a little bit better collecting that, having the different conversations and using that data to help address our kids' needs. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your perspective on what second week? And probably you're only on like day 10 in the office. So thank you for that. And Nathan, know that anytime you want to share your insights, you're more than welcome to send them to me or I think Carol Renner has been reaching out to you as well. And we can sure add that into the information that we have been collecting. So it's time to transition to breakout rooms. We would love for all of you to participate in the breakout rooms that are with us right now. We're going to take some time and talk about what we heard. And Nadia, do you want to cover those next steps or do you want me to?
You can go right ahead, Denise.
I thought you might say that. So let me see if I can talk and share my agenda at the same time. So we are going to go out into breakout rooms. I think we want up to about 4 people in a breakout room. So I'm going to ask Matt to be looking at the numbers we have and make sure that we have enough facilitators for each of those breakout rooms. In those breakout rooms, we are going to cover these questions. The questions are here. What did you hear? They're on your agenda. Today we heard from our partners. Is there a common agenda based on the shared data? If so, what are the mutually reinforcing activities which are implemented in support of the agenda, of that shared agenda? So that's the first question to start with. The facilitators will ask these questions. We'll get them posted into the chat so that you have those available if you don't have your agenda in front of you. We will take, how many minutes? Are we going to do 15, do you think, or can we do 20, Nadia?
I was going to say 20.
20, I see your message now. So 20 minutes. So we will reconvene back here at the full group at 1:20 with enough time to have each of the breakouts present back what they discussed, or the kind of the highlights. And one way that we can make that run a little bit smoother is that we will have, once the first breakout group presents, we'll have each of the following ones just present new information that they have that to move forward. That way we're not repeating a lot of the same messages. So any questions on breakout? Matt will get us all set up. We will be randomly placed in breakout rooms. Do we have enough facilitators, Matt?
Yes, I believe we do. So we're going to have 6 breakouts with 5 people in each. 4 to 5, depending on if you're one of the lucky groups or not. So I'll go ahead and open those up. As before, you'll get that message that pops up asking if you want to join. Click yes, otherwise you're just going to hang out with me and we can have a little party. I posted those questions in the chat box in this main room, but I'll work on going into each room and posting them in the rooms as well. So without further ado, I'll open those up for y'all. Hey, Joanna, are you with me?
Thanks, Matt. You do such a good job getting us into breakouts and out of breakouts and navigating. I kind of see you as like that airplane guy with the helmet and the lights. It's like, follow me this way, this way. Thank you, sir. You do great work. Is our leader back? Nadia.
I'm right here. Yep.
There she
Yep,
is.
I am here. Thank you. All right. I think we all made it back here. And I hope everybody had stimulating conversation in their groups. And so we are going to, we're going to get to report out. So if, I'm sorry, I don't have the list of rooms. Matt, if you can help me out, room 1.
That would be Denise.
We can jump right in. Amanda and I are going to tag team this one. So we talked about the overall common agenda that was heard was the shortage of resources. And I don't know, Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about what we heard in that realm, or am I putting you on the spot?
I guess I would just say we discussed the shortage of resources when it comes to like mental health and getting help for substance abuse issues.
We also talked quite a bit about reaching all kids and all families, and by looking at that differently to go to families versus having families seek out those resources and what that looks like for the community. Also, how much the needs have increased with the pandemic now in the post-pandemic era. Talked a little bit about chronic absenteeism and graduation rates, because that's not a space that we've talked a lot about, but that's more of like a cause of some of the risk factors that we were talking about. And so we talked a little bit about the juvenile justice plan, and Doug shared that chronic absenteeism was the #1 issue that was named in that Buffalo County Juvenile Justice Plan, mainly because there was 15 to 20% of minority students in Buffalo County who are chronically absent. So that was kind of a red flag when they were doing the juvenile justice plan. So that was something we kind of talked about, how that data is leading us to better understand what those pieces are. We talked a little bit about fear and anxiety and some of those pieces that students feel, or at least are reporting on that chronic absenteeism. Sometimes parents even in severe depression unable or mobilized enough to be able to bring kids to school, or stuck in that situation. And then also just vacations, just the ability to, we're going on a vacation and we're just leaving and our kids will be out of school kind of process or mentality for that chronic absenteeism. We talked a little bit about kind of what that looks like in the adult world, and a little bit about employment and how difficult it is for employment, especially with that same chronic absenteeism, sick days, what that looks like with new hires, and the challenges for the workplace and how hard it is to find quality people. And I think Nathan, if he's on here, even mentioned cooks and bus drivers in the school system, those hourly wages earners, is how difficult it is to find people to do that work. So did I miss anything, Amanda?
Nope, you did great.
Anybody else? Did I miss anything?
Okay, thanks, room 1. Room number 2 is me, and Jason is going to give the report out for us.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Okay, so we hit on a lot of things Denise talked about. We really spent a lot of time really mostly in the first question. We didn't hear a lot of information on shared data, but we did feel there was clearly the shared agenda with the lack of resources, both for youth as well as community members. Nadia made a great point of indicating that we do have excellent mental health services in what we are providing. It's just that it seems like there's more and more people that need them. Jessica mentioned there's a lot of wait lists for counseling services. She also made a great point. Diane asked her to kind of bring some light to some information relative to counseling. And Jessica brought forward that, a lot of people would love to have a kind of a one place, a one informational stop for all things SEL support or counseling support. But it's not really available, and most people won't look for that until they really need it. Sometimes that's more of a reactive response than proactive. It also, there's a lot of people that don't understand what mental health services really are needed. Jessica kind of, talked a lot about how sometimes people think there's just a need for counseling, individual counseling, but it may be what's really needed is a peer group support or some other service. That mental health, serving mental health is not as simple as just looking for a one-stop scenario. Sometimes there's a variety of services that have to be considered. So we talked quite a bit about that. We talked about the issues that we see yet and heard discussed relative to social media, and that a lot of times the programs are being brought forward by whether that's the partners, the school system, community organizations, but a lot of people who are there are either sort of already aware of the problems and preaching to the choir. The ones that really need it aren't always present. We talked a lot about the chronic absenteeism problem, and I agree with Doug that is probably one of the most significant problems we face. Our challenge is not just to how to improve that attendance, but how do we find educational pathways? Because the reality is there's a lot of people who just will not be successful in a traditional educational K-12 setting. They don't even want that setting. We have to find ways that we can sort of provide a pathway that encourages attendance and encourages people to finish so they can move on to a productive world of work, college, whatever that may be. But a lot of times there's a lot of kids who I think don't see that hope, and their attendance just kind of reflects that. They don't come anymore. So that was the bulk of our conversation. We did talk about end user voice a little bit at the end. We don't, and that's a common question, we don't think the end user voice is present much at all. A lot of times that's because we're trying to figure out how to problem solve things that people don't either come forward to talk about or don't want to talk about. So sometimes it's hard to get an end user involved in the problem solving process of what's really needed. So we did not think that was there. That's what I took for notes largely. Anybody else from the group can sure add into what I just said.
Thanks, Jason. Next one is Kathy Gifford's room.
Yes, we had a group, and Haley was our recorder and will report back for us. And if there's anything else, then we can add. So Haley, do you want to take it away?
Okay, I think in our group, we really stayed literally on the questions. So we have a lot, I think, different information. In regards to shared data, I think that there's a lot of data from different sources, but we're just not sure that we all know how to coordinate it or use it, get it organized. Let's see. With mutual reinforcing activities, there's a lot of mental health assistance in our area, not a lot of counselors, but there's a lot of people that want to help others with mental health. And it's kind of being addressed from agency to agency in maybe a different way. And maybe we need to figure out how to be more unified in our area. In regards to partners using local data, we asked, are we hearing from who we need to hear from? And some of that was, some of the members said that we're unsure how or who to bring to the table. Said there'd been problems having diversity brought to the table in the past, and maybe focus groups might be a good option for something regarding that. Talked about parenting and about sixpence training at schools for younger kids, maybe some sort of a hotline regarding parenting. Stigma, yes, there's stigma always involved in asking for help because some people just don't feel comfortable asking for help, and we're not sure how we can make that easier for them. Then when people do come and ask for help, there's access barriers, whether that's insurance, financial, language. There's not a lot of Spanish speaking counselors available. Some people don't think that they need help until there's a crisis, and then they're kind of running amok trying to get the help. Barriers when professionals or other parents talk to them about parenting styles, that kind of stuff. A lot of people get defensive regarding that. And there's a delicate line, and it's hard to tell when to or not to cross that line. The other thing we talked about is that there's a lot of prevention going on, but are the people hearing it that need to hear it? I wrote that a lot of people that hear the prevention are thinking, that's not for me, that's for somebody else. That's, so that's another issue that comes up. The other thing that came up was there was a community agency, Collage, who came into the schools and taught about dating, appropriate dating. And they said, people from the school said that really was well attended and well liked. And maybe that there could be more community groups coming into the schools to give information other than having the teachers do it when they're already overburdened with all the other stuff. Did I get it right, everybody? Did I miss something?
Thank you, Haley. That sounds great. Very thorough. And don't forget to all of you who reported out, if you'll just forward your notes to Matt or Denise so that we can add those in there. The next group is Amanda Shoemakers, and we are getting close to our closeout time. She had commented in the chat box that they talked about telehealth in regard to mental health services and the benefit for rural community members. That is very helpful. Amanda, did you have anything else to report out for your group that we haven't already heard?
I don't think so. Michelle, you were my note taker. Did you have anything else that you thought we should add?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, thank you. And then last room is Tana. Did your room have anything additional that you wanted to add to those things?
I'll report on that. I think just additionally, we did feel like all the speakers are really focused on best practices and trying to coordinate, and that there's definitely a stigma related to accessing services. And we have to think about how communication has changed over the years and how we have information continually coming at us and trying to figure out how to utilize that and also how to shut it off.
Absolutely.
Nadia, this is Tammy, and I think you might have, we had a separate group also.
Sorry.
That's no problem. Hey, and
Tammy, go ahead.
Sure, and just the things that really, we mentioned a lot of things that we've heard, and just talking about like with the hotline, sometimes it might be several weeks before someone can see you. So that's the problem, and maybe eligibility requirements if you don't fit into the right frame to be seen. About bridging the gap, that maybe there's a, you either have a very maybe low level that you need some help with, or very high, but maybe not for the in-between. And Ron mentioned to maybe focus on adults. We do a lot of focusing on the youth, but we also need to focus on the adults for that family unit. And sometimes people just really don't know where to turn, where to ask for help. And if Wanda is still on, she was talking about the Nebraska Family Helpline. And my question to Wanda, maybe just explain that real quick. And is that on my link? Are you still there, Wanda?
I am here. I've been having some internet issues, so I'll keep my video off and hope that helps. But yeah, the Nebraska Family Helpline is a resource that we kind of vetted it 2 or 3 years ago when we were doing some opioid work and some promotion. So we called them we called several places, but called them, and they were able to really field almost any situation related to, struggles with children and families. And if they couldn't find those resources, within their parameters, they would do the best that they can to find the right place to send you. So I think that just is a nice resource that maybe isn't as used as it could be. And I think it is on my link. I would need to look at Matt and Michelle to verify that, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Thanks, Wanda. The group, anything else I overlooked?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for all your contributions. I don't know if Joanna is still on, if she's got anything she wants to add in closing.
Oh, I'm still here, Nadia, but I think it's been such a great conversation this morning. Lots of great insights. So nothing more that I would add. Just thank you to our presenters and to the board for their thoughtful reflections on the work.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Lots of great information. And for those of you who are still on the call that are not on the board, we just want you to know that this is not the end of the road. We look forward to continuing these conversations as we move forward, setting our 2030 goals. We look forward to sharing this information with coalitions involved and utilizing all of that to move this work forward. August, our plan is really to just reflect on the last couple of months of listening sessions that we have had. Really what we have heard, what surprised us the most, how we can take this information and move forward. August will probably be a regular length meeting. We are going to try and keep it to 1 hour. We do appreciate the additional time that you've all given us over the last couple of months. And then we are super excited to have our in-person meeting in September at the Harmon Park Activity Center with lunch. And we look forward to having some deeper conversations then about moving forward, setting our goals and the work for our 2030 vision. So if anybody has any questions or comments, otherwise, I think we have, again, taken you over limit once more. Denise, I think you're sharing your, there we go. There we go. But I do appreciate your time. And if anybody has anything else, otherwise we will close. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.